Hi, I'm Andy Fellows. A bit of a different video today. I wanted to talk to you about leaving a cult and what that feels like and what it's like to kind of go through that and then end up thinking for yourself again. I've already covered going from the New Age into atheism. If you haven't seen that video already, I'll link it in the description. You can click a card, check it out. But in this video, I want to talk more specifically about what it feels like to be someone who is essentially thought for, someone who is living in a very kind of peculiar way, thinking in a certain way, acting in a certain way, being in a cult, to then coming out of that and reintegrating into reality, really, a little bit. So for those of you that don't know, I was in the Teal tribe, Teal Swan Cult thing for a number of years, and it's a weird one because it doesn't look or act like a regular cult in a lot of senses. Like, it is a cult and it does fit the criteria, but it does in a kind of roundabout way. So it's easy for example, Teal to say, I have the perfect recipe for a cult, but it's not a cult because of my ethics, which, I mean, that's a whole other can of worms. Anyone that speaks out against Teal in Teal Tribe, the Facebook group, they get swarmed in one of two flavours. Either the people defend Teal and her in her emotional state, which is another can of worms, or they basically tell the person that it's their fault, that it's their shadow, that it's something wrong with them, and that's why they don't agree or like Teal anymore. And it's oh God, Ned. That's Ned. That's the thing with this whole thing with Teal, is like, it's, you can to an extent you can kind of question what she says as long as you don't dislike her. If you show any signs of disliking her, there's a problem. Also, if you question what she says too much, then it's taken as a dislike, and then she gets all like, oh, they don't like me, which is a strange thing to get so upset about. Is people are going to dislike you. That's part of being a human, isn't it? So when I left, it was kind of a flurry of different emotions. It's you get angry. I got quite angry. I got really frustrated, and I felt really let down because let's be honest, there's a lot of things in the New Age that are just nonsense, and people say them as if they're true. Some people believe them, some people don't, and they just say it, which is a topic of debate with Teal. And you kind of, if you believe it, if you buy into it, you change your whole life around these ideas. And then when you realise that it is all categorically nonsense, you kind of, at least for me it was the case, that I got really angry, I got really disheartened. It's kind of a feeling of betrayal, because not only are they telling you things that, you know, you need to change your life, you need to do this, you need to do that, blah blah, but it's detrimental, it's destructive, and it's not just a case of, you know, oh, say this mantra and do this thing or blah blah blah. It's change your whole life, change the way you think, change the way you act with people, change the way everything, you know. And when you do that and it doesn't work, you come out of it feeling pretty miffed, to be honest. In terms of shunning, it does happen, but it's kind of informal in this context. It's not like with the JWs where there's like an order from on high that says do not talk to these people anymore, even if they're family, you know. With Teal's thing, it's a little bit less formal because the whole idea is a little bit fragile, and it is fragile. Logically, it's incredibly fragile. People that are in it, people that believe what she says and follow the whole New Age philosophy in general, really, they do tend to avoid being around people that think differently, think critically, and kind of are prepared to ask hard questions. Now, if you talk to them, they're probably going to say like, oh no, you know, I love everyone, all blah blah blah, they're all me, they're all reflections of me, all that kind of thing, which is a great way to avoid having a proper conversation, and you do see that a lot when you kind of talk to them. And I've talked to people since coming out of it all, and even at the time when you disagree with someone, it's very much like, I respect your right to think that, but spiritual excuse, I'm leaving now, bye. Which does happen. So as I was coming out and I was starting to think for myself again, and I was going back over it all, the anger, the frustration, the betrayal feeling, it's quite a strong one, and it does leave you quite bitter. It left me quite bitter. But on top of that, then you've also got this whole thing of like how it did work its way into your mind. It did work its way into your head. So there's a lot of things to sort out, a lot of thinking to sort out, a lot of the way that you interface with reality, the way that you interface with life, having to be reevaluated. A lot of things you have to start to question more deliberately, and you start to have to question your own thoughts and your own feelings in a new kind of way. The way that when you're in the cult, you're encouraged to question your own thoughts and feelings, tends to lead to a disempowered state. It tends to lead you to feeling broken, to feeling dependent on Teal in particular in this instance. And so coming out of that, there is and I don't want to use buzzwords in that, but there is a sense of like reclaiming your power. There is a sense of reclaiming your mind in a way. Like, the thing is, and this is something that I really want to be clear about, and I think I'm paraphrasing Lloyd on the John Cedars channel a little bit when I'm saying this, but being in a cult and then coming out, there's a tendency to think yourself stupid for being in it. There's a tendency to think that you were an idiot, or that you were naive, or that you were gullible for believing what was told to you. I think to an extent naivety plays a part in it, but I don't think it's a case of gullibility. All, you know, it's not all gullibility. Then again, there may be an element of gullibility, but it's not all gullibility, and you're certainly not stupid for believing it and going along with it. Like, you are subjected to a process. These are people who target people like me, people like you, if you were in it as well, people who are in a way vulnerable at a point in their life, people that are depressed, people that are suicidal. In Teal's case, that's her demographic, that's who she targets. And these are people, and myself included, who needed support, needed help, needed professional help, needed a therapist who was trained and qualified, and for whatever reason didn't seek it, and ended up on the internet watching hypnotic videos on YouTube from some unqualified person claiming to have the answers, and they, we got sucked in. We started to believe it. We started to think that she had the answers, and it's a dangerous road from there, because when you buy into she's an Arcturian soul fork who was blah 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 blah, you will believe anything that she says. And if you've listened to the Gizmodo podcast by Jennings Brown about Teal and the whole thing, there's a really good moment in, I think, episode 4 with Stephen Hassan. I think I'm pronouncing his name right. I'm shit with names, don't judge me, okay? I'm doing my best. There's a really good moment in there from him where he says that if people buy into what they say, then they essentially give over their ability to use logic, their standing on using logic to discern truth from whatever. And it's similar to the same kind of thing as like in Christianity. Like, if you believe Jesus rose from the dead, if you believe that he died for your sins, blah blah blah, then you'll believe anything they say. Like, once you buy into that, you'll buy into anything that they're telling you, because if you question anything else they say logically, then you have to then question that claim that he rose from the dead logically, and it all falls to pieces then, of course. And it's the same kind of thing with Teal. Like, when Teal says things like, I'm an Arcturian soul fork, blah blah blah, beauty, blah blah blah, and you believe that, then you have to believe everything else she says. And if you start to question everything else she says, then you have to question that. And if you question that, then every kind of thing that she says regarding whatever it is becomes subject to dismissal, really. Because if she says, I'm an Arcturian soul fork, and that's nonsense, then how can you believe her advice on mental health, for example? It all just sort of falls to pieces. So for me, going through all of that, going through the emotional stuff, going through this learning to think for myself again stuff, it took years, and I was bitter, and there's an element of hating in it. It's true that, and when Teal calls people like me her haters, I mean, there's an element of truth to that. Obviously, the reason it's more comfortable when you're someone like Teal to think that everyone's speaking out against you because they hate you personally, than to admit or to begin to recognise that the things that people are saying may just be because you're talking absolute fill in the blank. It would never be because you're talking drivel. It would never be because what you're saying is logically incoherent. Of course it's because we hate you. I mean, there is an element of hate, as I say, there's an element of hate there because this is someone who's taken advantage of you. I think if you don't, to some extent, hate someone who has literally ripped you off for years, it takes a while to figure out, and it does feel a number of ways. It's a very complex and difficult thing to muddle out. I mean, it's taken me this long to really start to speak again on it in a more public way, you know. I mean, I came out of it in 2015, something like that, and yeah, I mean 2019, I mean that's a long time to get to a point where I'm able to speak coherently on what I think about it. Coming to atheism was a big part of it, actually, because as an atheist I don't believe any of the supernatural stuff she says. I don't believe she has powers. I don't believe she can see inside people's bodies. I don't know if she still says that, but she used to say that. I don't believe she can blah 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 blah. So I can think now, I have a position from which I can say, okay, so if that's not true, why else might she be saying this? And that's really helped me to make sense of it in the last couple of years. But yeah, you know, if you're someone who, like me, was in it and is coming out of it or has been out of it for a while, and you're still making sense of it, it does take time. I get that. It's confusing because there's a lot of circular logic. There's a lot of unfalsifiable claims that she makes that you ultimately end up you second guess yourself a lot, and not just because you were taught to in the cult, but also because there's a lot of things that you can't know are false because they're based on just, again, unverifiable, unfalsifiable claims. So it is confusing. But I do want to encourage you, if you were in it, if you were someone who, like me, ended up changing your whole life because of it, that you ended up in a really bad, difficult, in terms of mental health and so on, situation because of it, please, if you find it in yourself to speak publicly on it, even if you just make like a 5-10 minute video on YouTube where you just sit there and just tell your story a little bit, please do it, because there are people who are going through that, people who are coming out, that they don't have many resources. Okay, so me making these videos, for me, is an important part of providing those resources for people. There's obviously lots of information on the internet, things like Lavaughn have said. Lavaughn said, there's like the Ghosts blog, there's Cameron's thing, so on and so forth. Celestial Reflection, Celestial Healing is a fantastic resource for people questioning Teal. But there's really too few testimonies out there of people who have been in it, come out of it, and had to essentially reorganize their entire mindset and build a whole life out of it because of it. And it does mess you up. So if you're someone who's been in it and you're feeling comfortable with telling your story with it, please do, because there are people that are struggling that need that. And if you aren't confident putting it out in your own way, whatever, reach out to me. I'll help you do it. We'll find a way to do it, whether it's on this channel or on your own channel, or maybe we can even sit down and do like a Skype call or something and just chat about it, whatever works. I think it's important though to have this information out there, to have a resource for people who are coming out of it, to see that, you know, they're not alone. But yeah, there's a lot to be said for speaking out publicly, for having something publicly there that's your personal experience, that no one can question because it's your experience. That's important. So yeah, if you find that in you, then please do it. Otherwise, thank you for watching. I hope you got something from this video, and I will see you in the next one.